Welcome to Season 2, Episode 2 of the Wellbeing and Sport podcast. Join myself and Kevin Braybrook as we interview Tsvetelina Georgieva from the Saints Foundation on the role of wellbeing in football community trusts. We hope you enjoy.
We have a wonderful guest on our Wellbeing Sport podcast this week. T, it's fascinating to learn a little bit about your story in terms of being a student and where you are now working. But firstly, as you know, and we've explained, we always have kind of a story or a question that we pass on from the previous guest. The previous guest asked us to pass on to you, what does mental health mean to you?
Firstly, thank you for having me. When you sent me that question yesterday, the first thing I thought of was more like an academic and scientific explanation of it, but then I had to think about what does it actually mean to me, and I think I had to reflect a bit. Mental health for me, I guess, is a big part of my overall health, and I know it is for everyone, but for me it might be like the most important one. I think when I've had times when I've not felt well, it's kind of affected all the other parts as well, my social life, my physical health. I wouldn't go for a run if I'm not feeling great mentally, whereas if I feel good, if it kind of feels like I can go through all the other stuff as well. So yeah, I think it's a really important part of my overall well-being, and it's something that I've had to been more mindful of in the past 5 to 10 years, say. Something I'm kind of a lot more aware as I've grown a bit older. And
I think we've certainly kind of unpicked that a little bit, but that initial bit where you said that for you it's more of a holistic approach, that when you feel in a good space you can kind of conduct your daily activities or keep healthy or go for a run, as you mentioned. But do you know when you are getting to a point in your daily life or your routine where there's a check-in point regarding your well-being? Actually, do you know what? I need to go for a run this afternoon, or I need to go away and have a walk. Do you know that's coming on?
I think I'm more aware of it than I used to be in the past. There's nothing like specific. I guess I'm not that disciplined to be one of those people that take 30 minutes a day to just literally reflect or anything like that. I think it's more of when I start to feel a bit more stressed, when I can see that I'm not reacting to things how I usually would, then I usually take myself out. So it might not be for a run, because that's not always doable if you're at work or anything, but I would just go for a walk. I'm really lucky to be surrounded by good people, so I can talk to people as well, which again is something that I do a lot more of than what I used to when I was younger.
Okay, brilliant. And we will certainly kind of delve deeper into these areas as we go through the next kind of 45 minutes. But let's regress a little bit. So when Tom mentioned about you coming on, I was quite fascinated when I hear about students who have been an undergrad here, then onto a master's, but are doing some really cool things and some really impactful things in industry. I think that's what we're all trying to do, is create opportunities for our students. But can you just go through a little bit in terms of your bio, in terms of where you've been, how you came into Solent, maybe your experience in Solent as well?
Absolutely. So I played basketball when I was younger for about 10 years. It was a really big part of my life, sport, and I wasn't good enough, so I realized I wasn't going to be playing professionally, but I wanted to be a part of it, and I really loved sport and exercise. So I thought one thing I can do is strength and conditioning, for example. I thought that was really cool. So I applied to Solent. I came here. I did fitness and personal training as an undergrad. But the best part about it, I think, is that we had so many different experiences. So I did get to do a bit of strength and conditioning and train amateur athletes, but I also did get to do some clinical exercise. So I worked with older adults, people with all kinds of conditions. And actually, once I did that, I thought, that's really cool. I was really interested in that. I found that fascinating. And once I graduated, I got a job at the Saints Foundation. I started with one of our projects that we have for older adults. So I did exercise for older adults. Then we did falls prevention. I did a bit of a weight management program, and then the mental health stuff came up, and that's how I kind of got to where I am. And I'm also back, as you know, doing a master's with Solent as well.
And it's an interesting kind of message there as well on the undergrad about accepting or taking on opportunities and exploring different avenues that might not even be as you mentioned, your basketball background, a little bit different, but you was willing to kind of engage and try new things that maybe opens up opportunities that I think sometimes students can miss.
Absolutely. And to be honest, I feel like I should have taken more opportunities.
Okay.
The outside stuff that, kind of are not part of your usual classes, but opportunities that come up. I feel like I should have done a bit more of that, which I'm definitely trying to do now. But yeah, absolutely. I think it was a great experience for me. I mean, I'm back, so obviously it was. But yeah, it was just amazing. I think, not that I had a bad time at school, but coming to university and actually doing exactly... I think I'm very lucky about that, by the way, but I know not everyone gets to do it, but to do something that you're really passionate about, it was difficult. I can't say it was easy, but also when it's something you like, it just makes things so much easier.
I can imagine. And looking at some of those projects you just identified, it's the ability to then communicate, and these intra and interpersonal skills, I think, are really of value to our students. And Tom, we probably don't... Although we think we share our degrees and our modules with our students, and we're explicit in how they have to kind of develop their craft and their knowledge, I don't think we forget, but I think our students forget these abilities to actually communicate and present their work and interact with community people and different social kind of economic backgrounds. And it's really important, isn't it, that students recognise that these are valuable learning opportunities as well.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I resonate with T's background, having been here as a student. And again, probably looking back on it, I didn't take the opportunities that, at the time that were offered to me. And I think that's it's always hindsight. Hindsight's a wonderful thing. So I'm sure a lot of our students will get to, 5 years on post-undergrad and be able to reflect on the opportunities they missed. But those skills that you develop through those opportunities or through networking with people beyond university are so key for what you then go on to do. And some of the skills that we have now that we're able to put into place as academics or pracademics come from being able to work with both people in the community or from an applied background, as well as then networking in-house. So I think the value of working with externals at any point in any business or any kind of world is really valuable to test your understanding of being able to translate your knowledge into their world. So yeah, it's great to hear about kind of T's full circle experience of being that student that maybe didn't jump at those opportunities as much as what she would look back on now and wish she had done.
And as we go back to just in that period, and it seems like you had a really rewarding and kind of empowering kind of period at Solent on the undergrad level, but it's not always a smooth and this linear path that everyone finds it really fine, and I get wonderful grades, I meet lovely friends, I have a great experience. Were there moments in that undergrad I don't know if it's the early introduction of well-being, but you've had to experience and go through some challenges and some constraints maybe in that time?
Absolutely. I think so. Obviously, I'm Bulgarian, so I actually moved in here for university. So I came in, and again, I loved it. But there was part of me that it was the first time properly leaving home and being away from everyone for months, everyone that I knew. So there was a lot of kind of nostalgia and homesickness, I think, that did accompany the whole experience that happened. So it wasn't, like you say, it wasn't all smooth, but enjoying what I did definitely did help. And I think actually reflecting, that's probably when I started to be a bit more aware of my mental health, because I had to do things on my own a bit more, be away from everyone I knew and loved, and whilst also trying to study, get a part-time job, all those things. So actually reflecting, that's probably when I started to struggle at times and find that kind of that pushing down that I felt worked when I was a teenager didn't actually work, and that was probably the time I started to be a bit more aware that I probably need to take care of myself a bit better.
And I think it's such a strong message that actually, certainly for international students here, that can become detached from family and move away from home, and also have to be then independent and look after themselves. And the weather can be different here, and the food's different, and demands are different, and the culture's different, and having to go through that, I think it's a reminder to us as staff to probably be aware of the individual, I should say, journey, not only on an academic level. So it's something I'm almost writing down now in my head and a bit of paper that actually probably checking a few with my students as well. So it's a great message. You then spoke about the next extension of going into the football industry.
Mm-hmm.
Now, you've gone to a wonderful football club, and most of our students probably and colleagues will look at the football club as performance level. We look at the men's team or the women's team, and they won 3 points, or they're winning the league and it's wonderful, or they're losing and it's the worst day ever. But there's so much good work happens behind the scenes and at different levels of a football club like Southampton Football Club. Can you explain a little bit about your current role at the club?
Absolutely. So I work for the Saints Foundation. The foundation is the charity of the football club. So every football club from the Premier League, the Championship, I believe League One, maybe some of League Two, have an official charity. So the Saints Foundation is the official charity of the club. We are an independent charity, but we're very well supported at the same time by the club. Obviously, we do many different projects, so that looks very different in every club and in every charity. We have, I think, about 16 programs at the moment. We've grown quite a bit. We've got about 60 full-time staff. So there is a lot more going on than football. I think even with a charity, when people think of us, they think it's football, it's young people or kids. And actually, there's a lot more going on than that. Just on a match day, there's so much. It all starts at like 8, 9 a.m. And people usually, we have like participants as well, or anyone that comes into the stadium and they see the offices and everything, they're just fascinated by how much actually goes on beyond football on a match day. Yeah,
I can imagine. And do you find that rewarding yourself? Because I guess it gives you so much opportunity to kind of work with the community and a whole range of individuals. But is it a job that you feel empowered every day? You feel positive about going to work every day?
Absolutely. And like you said before, I'm mindful that I don't want to make it sound like, everything's lovely. You do have days where you're like, or you have some tasks that you don't find as interesting as others, obviously. But I am very lucky that, like, at least 70-80% of the time, I love what I do. I really enjoy it. So most of my job is very positive, and like you said, it's very rewarding. I think, and I thought that even when I began at the foundation, that I was very lucky to be doing something with exercise, with sport, and at the same time help people and support the community, which is quite cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, brilliant. And before we go on to the current project you're kind of leading on, what are some of the previous projects you were part of?
So I started on our older adults program, Senior Saints. So it's
Sorry, I told you, Tom looks at me when you see older people. He tends to look at me about
Senior Saints.
About Senior Saints, which to me is an age thing. So I get that out of the way now. Thanks, Tom.
It's not for over 30s.
No.
Over 60s.
Yes.
40s, 50s. Okay, we'll stop there.
Yeah, it's for over 60s exercise, and it's very different. So we have a vast timetable. So it could be chair exercise, it could be all the way to circuits or walking, football and cricket. So I started with that, and that was really a great kind of way to start my career, I think. Not only, like you say, was it rewarding, but I think my communication skills were massively enhanced by that experience. I think, like you say, when I was at uni, I had more academic experience. I very much enjoyed that, but I was a lot more shy than I am now. And that experience working in the community really helped me come out of my shell. And, you meet different people, so you kind of recognize as well, you have different styles of communication depending on who you're talking to. You get to know people, build relationships, so it's a really nice thing. So that was great. And then we were lucky enough that we had more funding come in. We did a falls recovery program, which is kind of similar but more specific to adults who have had a fall or at risk of having a fall. We did a weight management program as well, which was kind of younger people, kind of the people that we work with now. And then the mental health stuff came up, and I thought that's something that I'm really passionate about. Obviously, it was a step up career-wise as well, but it's something that I was really, passionate about and had a bit of life experience in.
Yeah, it's a wonderful story really to look at the impact that club can have in its community with its local people and the power that football has far greater than, like, say, winning a game and the performance on the pitch. Actually, it's got this legacy feel that you can inspire, you can support health, well-being, and some of the projects you mentioned there, certainly things that you kind of, although many of us probably have a limited knowledge on, we all want to work with people and help and support. So it's wonderful what you're doing. Tom, I come back to some of the work that we do here. We often talk in many of our modules about elite performance and high potential and everyone's aspiration. They see the wonderful game on TV and they want to be part of the WSL or the Premier League, Men's Premier League. But actually, there's far more opportunities around the game than only on the pitch, isn't there? And some of these wonderful things that T's mentioning, I think, should be inspirational for some of our students to want to go and kind of inquire around community projects or foundation programs or charitable work.
Absolutely, and I think the main thing or the main message that I took from T there is actually the being able to communicate or work with different populations and the skills you learn from that. The foundation or the kind of charitable trusts that are attached to football clubs should by no means be a stepping stone, but actually you can get really good coaching opportunities by working with their Premier League Stars program, or you can go into work with the kind of older generation and understand a little bit more about how you'd communicate with them, or work with the youngest of kids that the charity support. And again, you have to communicate in a very different way, and before you know it, all of these skills are developing, both a CV, a working CV that is important if you want to go and work in sport, connections as well. Again, we always say the kind of power of networking, but again, my college, my BTEC was through the foundation, and the connections that I built whilst I was there, still I've got connections within the foundation now, and they've helped me throughout my journey within sport, within academia, within podcasting now, kind of linking everything back up. So for me, it's never an option B. I don't think working with the foundation or a community trust, it's as paramount as any other aspect that you can work with in sport, and actually the opportunities that you get through that are second to none as well.
So then we get to the point where, with the Saints by Your Side project you're working with, it'd be lovely to hear a little bit more about what that is, how it started, and maybe your role within that.
So Saints by Your Side is our men's mental health program. It started about 3 years ago, I think. Yeah, it was coming up to 3 years. The way it started, so funding changes, as you probably know. Yeah, it's very... but it started in a partnership between the NHS, the club, and the foundation. And I think the idea was that it's not that men don't have mental health challenges and they don't experience them. However, if this is maybe a trigger warning, but 75% of deaths by suicide are men in the UK, which is quite high. So again, it's not that men don't experience any issues, but potentially they don't look for them. Look for support. So the idea was that potentially putting something at the stadium run by a football club, it's a bit less clinical, I suppose. A bit less clinical, a bit more accessible, I suppose, for men, kind of like a first level of support. Mm-hmm. So we're not psychologists or anything like that, but creating that kind of group environment where guys can come in, feel like they can chat to each other in a safe environment. So that's how it started. It's then it was funded by private funders, and now it's by the Premier League Fans Fund. So that's changed, but as it gone, it's just kind of developed. It's a 12-week program. The groups we keep them small, maybe about 8-10 guys, so it's not too, I guess, anxiety-inducing when you show up. And we do light workshops around different topics. Sometimes we get different other local charities to come and do specific talks on different topics that they're kind of more specialized in. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's very much, it's a very rewarding thing, to be honest, to see these guys and how they kind of obviously come in on the first week and might be a bit nervous, which is fair enough. I don't know how I would do it. And then by week 12, they've made some friends and they're opening up, and sometimes they open up about things that they've not talked to their friends about. So yeah, that's kind of the gist of it.
And those men that come along to the program and the project, are they referred to you from kind of a doctor, or is it somebody that just sees it advertised and thinks, do you know what, I wouldn't mind just popping in there? So how do they kind of almost become an entity that you're building?
That's a good question. So we take referrals from primary and secondary care, but we also take self-referrals. So, people can just go on our website or Google Saints by Your Side and just express interest. It's very quick. So that's a really quick way to get involved. We then give them a ring, myself and my colleagues, and they can come in as well for a one-to-one, for a chat. I think it helps people a lot of the time to know who they're going to meet on the day, where it takes place, rather than, just showing up on the day. Sometimes it helps people. So we do offer that. And then, once they get involved, a session is literally, we don't advertise it as doing sport and physical activity. That's not a set part of it. Although, we're qualified and we can do that when participants want to. We usually do a walk around the pitch. Well, a few walks. It depends on the guys, but that's kind of how we get people getting their steps in while chatting, so they don't see it. I think a lot of the time as sport, I think that could put people off that haven't done any exercise specifically for sometimes even decades. But having that walk around, the chat, it really breaks the ice.
And it's something that's kind of echoed many of our previous guests on our podcast here, that they've often referenced this, how well-being can look for them, whether it is talking to somebody, having open dialogue and just chatting, exercise, whether that's walk, whether that is in a chair, but trying to be more active than they've ever been. And it seems that such an impactful way that actually meeting, being in a place together, exchanging ideas, talking, potentially going for a walk, whatever it may look like there is it may seem something quite small, but in all of our lives it's so huge in terms of the outcomes and the gains you can get from it. So I can see it being of real value, and I think, Tom, we recognise this on many of our courses here. We work on a football studies course where it's very much a male-populated course. We're strong in terms of our male cohort. We're working really hard to increase visibility of our female students, who are brilliant, and the recruitment. But we're always mindful as well of many of our young men in having a support structure and somewhere where they can channel their discussions. And this seems a really perfect way that maybe we should actually be looking at some of the brilliant work you're doing, Tian. Actually, can we reflect and bring some of that across to what we're doing here, Tom? Yeah,
for sure. I think, and again, maybe we'll pick up on this with T in a second, but I think, we could have a Solent by your side, and it could be some. I know we do initiatives here where we've got kind of come and play initiatives, haven't we, in the sports hall, and we encourage students just to come and socially play football, and we've had kind of chat clubs around that, haven't we? That we try and connect with. But the bit that really interests me, and I'm interested to hear your thoughts, is you guys have got obviously the benefit of being connected to the club, the reputation of it, the fans want to come and walk around the pitch because they may have never walked on that grass before, or I know you've had professionals down before to join the guys as they walk around the pitch as well, which obviously is a big pull, right? I'm a Saints fan. I would love the opportunity to walk around, maybe not with the current crop, but with some of the players and have the opportunity to pick their brains. Is that quite a big pull for you guys, or do you actually think that it's just the name of the club, or is it the programme itself? Where's the pull for you?
That's a good question, Tom. It is a bit of everything, I think. The fact that, I know you mentioned fans, and absolutely for fans it's probably an even bigger thing, but you don't have to be a Saints fan or a football fan to join, and even those people who aren't, it's still a pretty cool thing to do, to be fair. We walk around, especially the first session where they don't know each other. We walk out and it's just the pitch and it's empty. It's not match day, and it's a fascinating thing. So it does help, absolutely. It massively benefits us, and it helps us get people to the program. It could be a bit of everything. I mean, I'm wearing my kit now. We wear Saints kit. I think it helps, again, break the ice and get people to talk to you. It helps, and we have staff in secondary schools with community champs. It helps on every level for people to approach you and talk to you and feel like they can build trust with you and open up. yeah, I think it helps on every level.
And how does it work? Because I think you mentioned it's a 12-week program. Is it once a week and it's like an hour? I know you mentioned again that you've got kind of charitable partners or externals that come in and deliver, but is this a program that you would have to wait for the next 12-week iteration to start? Is it once a year? Can you tell me like a little bit more about the practical delivery of it?
Absolutely. So it's 12 weeks, once a week. We meet for 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
We have 2 groups going at the same time. The way we try to do it is we start one, and after about 4-6 weeks, we start the next one. So let's say you've just referred yourself, and one group's just started. The other one would hopefully finish in 6 weeks.
Mm-hmm.
And so the waiting time is not too long. That's another reason why we do the calls and offer one-to-one. So it kind of feels like you're not just sat there
game.
waiting. Yeah. So, that's kind of how it works. And then when the session comes in, we have a structure, but it's also very flexible, which I think works very well. So we meet outside. Like I said, we go for a few walks around the pitch. Even it's something that we always do, but then it also does depend. So sometimes we might do one walk around. Sometimes if the guys are feeling it, we might do 6, 7. So it's not a strict, guys, we need to go in and go through our topics. It's about what they want. But we do that, then we get a drink, coffee, tea, and we go to one of our boxes, rooms around the stadium, and we go through the different topics. And it's not so much about us going through our slides. The information's very, it's NHS, NICE guidelines, that kind of stuff, but it's there to bring up the discussion. And then staff are really good at creating that environment, managing the group dynamics, balancing out the conversation. And like I said, the idea is that it brings up discussions, gets guys to open up, maybe learn a few things along the way. And then if they need more support, we have good relationships with local organizations, so we can signpost when they need further support.
It sounds quite clearly a huge impact, and as you're talking, I'm thinking about kind of those experiences that maybe we've encountered or people that we know could benefit. And how would you judge the impact? And I know it seems a dark question, because you think, well, sure, people come along and they meet each other and they stay for 12 weeks, but what is your benchmarking against? What says actually, do you know what, this is really creating something important?
That's a great question. I like you. I like to think of myself as an academic, so I absolutely agree with you. We should be measuring these things. So we have we do that anyways. For ourselves, so we know, like you said, what we've actually achieved. For funders, they would like to know, obviously, where their money's gone. So we do that anyways. And we're very lucky. We have a great head of impact who's really onto us for getting those forms done. So we've got different ways of doing it. So we obviously have case studies and quotes, which are great, so a bit more qualitative. We do focus groups and something we call Saints Voice, which is across every different project that we have different themes, I think 3 times a year. But we also, for each project, we do evaluation forms, so the more quantitative side. It's different depending on the project. It's different questionnaires, and that might be because of what the funders want, but also what we're trying to get out of it. Like for mine, for example, we do one of the things we do is the short Warwick Edinburgh scale, I think, and a few other things. So we do a pre-evaluation form, post-evaluation form, and that's more of our quantitative data. And then we also have case studies, qualitative stuff as well. So it kind of helps us get the overall picture, because you're right. So there's things that obviously, if you get just the qualitative data, sometimes it could almost feel like an anecdote because it's someone's case study. But then if you also get just the quantitative stuff, you might miss out on some of the stories and the relationships and the impact of that that's happened. So we try to get kind of a mixed methods in there to get as much as we can.
Yeah, and as you say, the charitable trust do some wonderful things, some great things in the community. But as you say, I can imagine we're all under the same governance. We're all being asked to justify or demonstrate or add value and why you're doing what you're doing and the impact. So I'm not surprised that they are working within those kind of mixed methodology in terms of what are the results. But it's quite clearly you are achieving some wonderful things. But what about you and your colleagues? Because this seems like I can certainly see how there's an influence on those men that are coming in and over the 12-week period. But has it influenced you and affected you in any way?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the first things that I thought of when I started in the foundation was, maybe in an arrogant way, I thought, well, I'm going in and I've got a degree and I'm going to help people, but I didn't really think about the way it's going to affect me and how people would help me, to be honest. So yeah, it has a massive impact. Like we mentioned, that it's very rewarding. And I think I've learned a lot from the guys as well, from different projects that I've done and from my colleagues, but specifically if we're talking about Saints by Your Side, doing different topics and speaking to the guys and going through kind of, again, different themes. It opens up conversations, and as someone who's facilitating, it can be a tricky situation sometimes, because you obviously have professional boundaries, so you're not going to make this about yourself, but you also sometimes share little bits to because it's a genuine, you're trying to build a genuine relationship, and also make yourself be more human and relatable. So it's an important thing. But yeah, absolutely, I've been part of really important conversations, and it's affected me. I go home and I reflect on, actually what someone else said might be, I don't know, let's say coping strategies. We talk about that, and then someone might come up with something that works for them that I haven't thought of, but it might be a good idea for me as well. So I learn a lot every day, I would say.
And when I know you mentioned a little bit at the start about some of the strategies you implement for yourself, but when you have one of those days, and I look at Tom because we have in many of those days at the moment, but when you have a day where things are heavy, either information is coming your way or your workload feels that you never quite get through it all, and there's challenges come along, have you developed your own process now that when you do go home, how do you offload? How do you step away? How do you look after you? Because you've got to go back the next day, back to work again.
It's not always easy, to be honest. I mentioned, being active, going for a run, going for a walk, that kind of stuff. But with our sessions, they're in the evening, which is, because of the availability of most of the guys. So a lot of the time it's 6 to 8, you finish at 8 and you just go home. So you don't have that time to go for a walk with a colleague for a lunch break, talk it through. You kind of just go home, and sometimes it's harder to switch off than other times. But I think we're very lucky that we work with very understanding people, and specifically my manager, for example. So that time that I've had done in the evening, I could take off the next morning, for example, which is very helpful. It sounds so simple, but it means so much, because then I could sleep a little bit more. I could do something for myself, even like doing things around the house that you might be stressing that you don't have time for. So that really helps, taking that time in flexible times. And again, we try to reflect the next day. I'm really close with my team, which again, very lucky that I have people that I like, that I work with.
Can't get it in everywhere.
And we're all very open to talk about these things, or how we're feeling, or that kind of affected me. We've got great support in terms of safeguarding. We do another program that's with young people, and through that we're very fortunate that we get clinical support from the NHS. So once a week we get to debrief with her as well. So it can be difficult, but we try to find different ways of talking, offloading, and
And it's an area that's, I think sometimes we have to be more, take ownership of as lecturers here as well, that primarily we work on sport courses, and our students, as you mentioned in your journey, do an undergrad of us, and then they go in the evening to try and work in industry, become a coach, an analyst, work somewhere within football, hopefully. And that tends to be a 6 to 8 period, or 7 till 9, and then they come back to the uni next day to come to lectures. And I often check in with some of ours about, what did you have for dinner last night? Is it because, and you hear these as a meal deal. I was eating on the go. I didn't get time. I had 3 sessions to do tonight. I've not had a chance to eat. And you realise actually, you've got to take time, whether it is being able to get home, or the next morning, as you mentioned, prioritising that I can look after. I can go and have a nice breakfast, or I can go and actually eat dinner. Or I can, like you are now, having your water or stay hydrated, because the demands of being in sport can often be the evening sessions. And if you're not careful, you're in a level of enthusiasm is wonderful that you're being motivated to go on for work, but you can lose sight of you because you're doing 3 sessions. And Tom, you've even done it, haven't we? Where we've gone from session to session to session, and then we're fatigued and like, I've not eaten for 9 hours and I feel lousy.
Yeah.
And it's quite a challenge. And I think sometimes our students have to realise their value, that their cup has to be full as well if they're going to really share their energy to other people.
Yeah.
That's what I meant when I said that back in the day. That's exactly what I would have done. So now it's not to say that, every evening I feel like I have to take that time, but I guess I'm more mindful that if I don't, then it might get worse after a few weeks, a month of kind of exhausting myself. But yeah, absolutely. I guess when I was that age, I wouldn't have thought of that as well. I would have just had a meal deal and just went on with it, got on with it. Yeah.
I have a running joke with a couple of my students. They get through their 3 monsters a day in a lecture. I'm like, come on, this needs to be some discussion. We have and we do have brilliant people here in our support services teams that are wonderful in these areas. But I think it's just an interesting, although it's a shortcoming you mentioned there, has an impact. I think that we have to reflect a little bit. You mentioned earlier about funding, about budgets, about often sponsorship of trying to access funds to increase and the demand or the impact of these projects. But if overnight you was given an amount of money and you was able to influence either your current project, which again looks like a brilliant project, what could this project become? If there was, I don't say endless money because you can't do this course in Bahamas or, or in Hawaii. But if you was able to influence greater, and we were able to fund that for you, what could this look like?
Well, we've thought about this for about a year now because the funding was a bit, stricter, so that kind of affected as well. But a women's Saints by Your Side as well, I think. We've had a lot of women come up to us and say that that's something they would like to join. So I'm working on that at the moment. That would be great to expand, or even a mixed group, But the thing is, that's what we try to do every time we create something, is we try to create it with the people that would benefit. So getting their feedback rather than just putting something on that we think would be great for them. For me, it's not just a case of putting a session on tomorrow for women. It's more about talking to different people and seeing what that might look like for them, because it might not be the same. So it's a bit of a process. But yeah, that will be a great thing. I've also, a lot of the feedback that we get of what we could do better, what you would have liked is, make it longer, which is a lot of programs because of, again, funding and everything. It's about 6-12 weeks. So it's, I don't think it's often that you get anything longer than that. But that would be great, doing something for maybe slightly longer, still making it sustainable. Potentially, like I said, the first 12 weeks with the 12 weeks with Saints by Your Side, we don't advertise it as having physical activity as part of it, or exercise, sport. But I think that after the 12 weeks, you've built that relationship with people, that trust. They've built they've done a bit more physical activity every time. I reckon that could be like an additional. So let's say you do the 12 weeks of more the mental health stuff, the group stuff, the bonding, and then after that you've got 12 weeks of like the weight management program that we used to do, where you get a bit of education and you get different exercise and sports sessions different weeks. So you get active, but also you get to experience different things, and hopefully by the end of it you find something that you like and you would continue. And I think the adherence for that would be great if it's like an additional thing. I've been thinking about that for the past few months, so I had an answer right on.
You did, and it's a brilliant answer. And I'm sure, as you're part of your steering group with your staff and colleagues, your bosses and line managers will be saying, what can we do? What can be achievable? What is, we're always under constraints, unfortunately. We would love to do more maybe, but it does seem like the things that the foundation are doing, and in particular this project, is really relevant and it's really required. And I think it's, to move into with a female cohort, for example, or younger people, or it seems it's such a rewarding aspect of the job. And I just wonder how, are all the community aware of this? And I know, yes, of course they must do, because Saints are a big club, they got the badge and they showcase it, but you just wonder if those that maybe go to see the doctors or have to kind of wait in a period before they get referred would be aware of the wonderful projects that are happening. And actually, look at ourselves and individually think, do you know what, maybe I need to go and get that help, or maybe I can access that support. Are the community in the area fully aware of the breadth of what you offer?
We try to reach out to, it's probably not as many people as we would like. Obviously being part of the club helps in many ways. That's one of them. So when we have match day activations around different projects, around the Saints Foundation, we have a charity match day every year. So that helps massively. So we do try. I think there's also like a lot going on. So sometimes I speak to people when they'd be aware of our school projects, and they would think that's the Saints Foundation. Then there'd be people that are aware of my project, and they think that's the Saints Foundation. So there's just so much going on, and going back to funding, things pop up or they stop, and things change. So I think it's hard for people to be aware of everything that's going on all the time. But hopefully we're working in that direction where more and more people are aware of what we do. I think our partnership work is quite good, but you're right, the beneficiaries, there's always more that we could do to advertise.
Again, it's not strong anecdotal kind of data collection, but for some of the people that I've seen who are friends that are slightly older now, that have gone through a program, whether it was an education course through the club and they've turned out to do wonderful things, or whether it was a well-being support in an area of the game, or were given access to weight management. I know some people that really benefited from the work that you're doing. So I think for many of us that realise the little snapshots that you're doing, you're doing brilliant work, because it's clearly making an impact. So you should be really proud of what you're doing, T, and your colleagues. We hope, and this is a horrible way of putting it as well, I hope with the club's challenges on the pitch, as I think we all recognise that, doesn't influence the brilliant things that you're doing off the pitch. And that's probably another discussion on another day, because I think sometimes performance has influence on the finances, which is a shame, I think, but some of the bits you're doing is clearly key and is making a real kind of difference, which is great in our area. And Tom, I go back to some of the work that T's mentioned there about the many projects, and certainly this project, men's mental health. However we can access support and create a space and create discussion can only be a benefit.
Yeah, and I guess I'll tie it back into research, and I think mental health broadly. But there was a study recently by Hale and colleagues from Loughborough and University of South Wales, and they looked at the impact of community trusts or charitable trusts and that are connected to football clubs. And they found that over 21 of the different community trusts, they were delivering mental health focused interventions. And with that, these initiatives were supporting things like resilience, self-care, and their impact was far greater as a result of being connected to the sports clubs. So there is almost a responsibility with the football clubs that we talk about, or as I said, a lot of sports clubs, rugby clubs, cricket clubs will have charitable foundations attached, and they also do this great work. But this kind of study itself highlighted the importance for two aspects, really. One, the importance of these charitable trusts increasing the understanding of mental health. So the literacy around mental health. What is it? How do I improve mine? And I think T speaks about her journey being able to understand what mental health is. And we opened up with that question today, and it was like, well, as an academic, I'd answer it this way. But the people that a lot of these charitable trusts are working with aren't academics. They're not academically trained to understand what mental health looks like. So actually the role here is to reduce stigma around mental health, particularly men's mental health or younger people's mental health. And these interventions may then be very subtle. So again, the Saints by Your Side is a great example of how walking around the pitch at St Mary's is actually a mental health intervention, but a lot of it would never be sold necessarily as that to the potential people that be part of that. So yeah, some great work going on, and again, the research, just to summarize, suggests that more of this work is needed, and actually more evaluation is needed to assess their impact. I think T maybe sold the project short earlier, but when I was looking at it, was 100% of participants achieved one positive outcome as part of this Saints by Your Side project. 92% of participants increased their knowledge around mental health. So these are numbers that are not achieved through traditional research. You know, if myself or you went and did a traditional intervention that was very kind of experimental, you would rarely see 100% kind of achieving positive outcomes. So there's something special about the work that community trust can do, particularly in relation to mental health interventions. And I think, given your experience of it, T, is that how you feel? Have you had any experience of either part of your undergrad looking at mental health interventions in clinical settings actually outside of the football club, or does it feel a little bit different as part of it?
Sorry, what do you mean?
Would you see the football club or the charitable kind of trust being paramount to being able to deliver these interventions? Or let's say, again, if we did a kind of Solent by Your Side project, would we be able to have the same impact? Or is it as a result of, like we said before, the facilities that you've got access to, the club badge, you guys wearing the kit? Do you think that's the important side here?
Like I said, it is quite important. I think we've got the right staff as well with the right kind of intentions. So that is very important. So, you said, if you were going to do something like that, you're important and what you bring is very important. But at the same time, we know that we're lucky to be able to do the walk around the pitch. Sometimes we do a little stadium tour for the guys, which is, again, very unusual, I guess. Not everyone gets to do that. So these things help massively. And also, this is, I think, a good example of the role of football clubs and community trusts. For example, we just had, we're doing a pilot this year. It's called Extra Time in Southampton. So this is how we've named it. It's different in different clubs, but it's a Premier League pilot around suicide prevention. And the fact is, so what we do really is match day presence at every home game, where people can come in, talk, find out more about where they can get support, and also like a massive campaign around, destigmatizing the topic. But that is a good example, I think, because that way, just every match day, we just get an audience of 30,000 people. Yeah. Which a lot of the charity organizations that we work with in the community, that some of them will be involved in that. They're always very kind of vocal about how great that is, and how many more people we can reach just by being a part of that. Especially, it's not just about men, but if we talk about men, the majority of our fans are probably men of that age that don't seek other support. So maybe putting some stuff in that environment will, bring up the topic for more guys. Yeah,
for sure. And we reiterate a few times that the power and the connector of football, in terms of every Saturday or every other Saturday, 30,000 people going there. This kind of community feel, this tribal feel of football. What it has, it's powerful, and having these opportunities. But I also don't want to do a disservice to and not raise all of the wonderful facilities, and the football club and the badge is for sure an influencer. But the people and your colleagues and the culture and the warmth and the empathetic nature you have to drive these is something that should be applauded and highly recognised in many ways. So, you've spoke passionately to you about some of the work you've been doing. As we go to the later stage, then, more interesting about you now. So you've seen some great things, and you've highlighted some of the brilliant projects you've been part of. What about yourself? You mentioned you're doing your Masters here. What does, horrible question, what's the next 3 or 4 or 5 years look like for you? Because you've got wonderful experiences now. Your wonderful personality, you're doing some great work. What's the next stage for you?
Well, I'm doing my Masters. I should hopefully graduate around this time next year.
Yep.
I love what I do in the community, and I also love what I do at uni, and I love academic work as well. I would love to do a PhD potentially at some point, whether it be straight after, I don't know. But that will be something that I'm really looking forward to. So if there's something that I could do between still doing the community work with the club and the charity, and going up in my career in that way, but also doing academic work and maybe research and studies. I think that would be the ideal thing for me. How possible it is in the next few years.
Very.
Well, I would say it'd be amiss of us not to highlight that our Southampton and Solent University would be honoured to have you doing your PhD with us, because I can almost hear this longitude study of your impact in the community and working with us and working with you to develop some, as we mentioned, some interventions, some initiatives that are extended from what you're doing now. But I think believe in that, because I think it's certainly feasible for you to maintain your career, add value by a PhD journey, which is no mean feat and it's quite challenging. But it would be a great way for you to kind of extend that kind of reach that you mentioned and the impact that you can provide. And you could be a real kind of leading light in this area. So I think that's something strongly to consider. And, having for Tom and I to have 45 minutes of your time today, I think you'll be a wonderful addition to our PhD pathway as well. I think you'll be great here. So something to consider. Once you get through your masters and you have that wonderful day in the summer.
Yeah, let's do one thing after the other.
Yeah. I don't want to be a salesman too much, but I think, Tom, it's been refreshing, isn't it? Because we've had many guests on the podcast that have got unique stories, and that narrative is why we ask people to come on, because they can share their experiences of well-being in sport, how sport has captured their imagination and their identity almost. Often we have high elite performers that are working and are playing at levels, but I think we very rarely had guests on that have had a different type of impact that you clearly are making, in the work that you're doing at Southampton Football Club and some of the projects you're a part of. And this area of men in sport and men in general health and well-being is something that I think we have been touched by in the last 12, 18 months ourselves. So it's been wonderful to kind of get a little bit of a snapshot of what you're doing and get to know you a little bit more. So I think, Tom, it's been, we always talk about how rewarding these series are, and the podcast process has always been, but this has equally been very special today, hasn't it?
For sure. I think, insightful, really. It's great to, shine a light on both you personally, T, and the work that you've done and your journey. That's amazing. Again, the foundation and the community trust being, a few steps away from here, and again, to use this podcast and this opportunity to shine some light on some of the great work that they do as well has been fantastic. So I'll hand it back over to you to round it all up. Yeah,
and as when you entered T today, you was given a question from a past guest. You've had a little bit of time to maybe think about this, and maybe there's some discussion today of kind of influence this. But what would your question be to our next guest? Have you got something that we would like to pose to them when they enter the building next week, potentially?
Well, I was thinking, if we're going around the mental health, the subject of mental health, I was thinking, what do you look forward to every week? Kind of on a positive note.
Lovely.
Right. What a great question.
What do you look forward to every week?
Oh,
he's got a lot of things.
You know what? Yeah,
it is.
Tom was probably
it's the podcast.
Yeah, Tom's podcast. But do you know what? I think it's we'll leave it there. But what I would say, not too far away from probably what you mentioned. Being with good people. Being with people that you love and you want to spend time with, and having those little moments, whether it's Tom for a game of golf or lunch with my wonderful wife or seeing one of my kids, whatever it may be. I think it's those little moments, I think, is something you look forward to. But a brilliant question, and we look forward to kind of posing that to our next guest and seeing if they kind of mirror some of my reflections. But T, thank you. You've been a brilliant guest. Really enjoyed kind of meeting you. We're going to keep tracking what you're doing, and if ever we can help you, I know you've got brilliant people on your course already, and some of the guys that your lecturers are really excellent people. But if we can help you from afar, we'll always be here to support you.
Yeah, no, same. Thank you for having me, and I'm sure we'll stay in touch, and we work together closely anyways, don't we?
For sure,
club and the uni.
Brilliant. Thank you, T.